Hello, Internet, and welcome to the Collective Arcana. We are a channel all about tabletop gaming. My name is Wyatt, and today we're going to be continuing our series on the Pathfinder 2nd Edition classes with the Summoner from Secrets of Magic. The Summoner is a spontaneous spellcaster that uses a very powerful sort of companion called an Eidolon. Before we go any further, if you like this kind of content, don't forget to like and subscribe so we know to make more of it. Let's begin with stats and progression. The Summoner's key ability score is Charisma, and for HP it gets 10 plus its Constitution modifier per level HP. And that may seem a little odd for a spellcaster chassis, but we will talk about why that makes sense here in just a few moments. For Perception, the Summoner begins trained, and that progresses to Expert at 3rd, where it will stay for the rest of its career. For saving throws, the Summoner begins Expert in Fortitude saves, progresses to Master at 11, Trained in Reflex saves, and that progresses to Expert at 9, and Expert at Will saves, which progresses to Master at 15. For skills, each Summoner begins trained in one or more, which are determined by their Eidolon choice, as well as an additional number of skills equal to 3 plus their Intelligence modifier. Attacks are where we start to get a little bit weird with the Summoner. The Summoner itself is trained in unarmed attacks and simple weapons, and that progresses to Expert at 11. They get Weapon Specialization at 13. However, the Eidolon, your special companion, gets trained in unarmed attacks, progresses to Expert at 5 and Master at 13. Along the way, they get Weapon Specialization at 7th and Greater Weapon Specialization at 15. Probably already noticing the trend here about how your Summoner is a caster, but their pet is decidedly a martial, although there are some variations, which we'll get to. For defenses, the Summoner is trained in unarmored defense, which progresses to Expert at 13. And the Eidolon is trained in unarmored defense, which progresses to Expert at 11 and Master at 19, again following that martial track. As a spellcaster, the Summoner is trained in spell attacks and DCs based on a tradition that is determined by their Eidolon, and they are spontaneous casters. From trained, they go to Expert at 7th level and Master at 17, following the Magus spellcasting track. For your starting package, you get sort of a lot, all of it based around your Eidolon. Your Eidolon is a very special ally that is very different from a standard animal companion or a familiar. It is beyond the scope of both of those things. It's chosen from a large and always growing list that will also, as I said previously, determine your spellcasting ability score, or not ability score, but your spellcasting tradition. When you choose your Eidolon, a few things are set in stone, such as its ability scores, its size range, its attacks, and special abilities. Although there are some variations within each Eidolon. Usually they have a couple of different variations for each type of Eidolon. But there's also many things that are left completely up to you about its appearance, its personality, and other aspects, and they can be further customized by taking feats and things like that as you progress. So don't think that you're limited to the 15-ish or so existing, probably more like 20 actually, existing subclasses that we have for the Eidolon, because from the get-go you're going to be customizing and changing and making that Eidolon be your special, unique Eidolon and not at all a cookie-cutter one. If anything, it's best to think of the Eidolon as sort of templates that you apply and customize. Being an Eidolon, you share a very unique bond with it. It's visually represented by a sigil that glows somewhere on the body of both you and your Eidolon, typically in roughly the same position. And because of this symbol, any enemy that sees the two of you can instantly recognize that there is some sort of connection between the two of you. They may not know the specifics of it, but even to people who have never seen a Summoner and Eidolon before, it is an instinctual link to you that cannot be hidden by clothing or illusions. So the possible Eidolon choices that you have are Construct or Dragon for the Arcane spell list, or Angel, Demon, Psychopomp, or Undead for the Divine spell list. For Occult, you get Anger Phantoms and Devotion Phantoms. And for Primal, you have choices of Beast, Fae, or Plant. Now that's only 13-ish, I think, but like I said, each one sort of has 2 templates within the template, so you're really getting more like about 25 different Eidolons. And again, with feats and things like that, you will be able to customize it. Your Eidolon can be summoned as a 3-action activity, and it must remain within 100 feet of you. If you or your Eidolon are somehow forced further apart than that, it will unmanifest. Because it isn't a typical minion or even a summoned creature, legally within the rules, it does not have those traits. And so, things that would normally affect creatures with those traits or the normal rules that surround those creatures do not apply to the Eidolon. As such, you and the Eidolon share a number of things. You share multiple attack penalty, which is, not something that we typically see with animal companions. You also share an HP pool, and that's why you have that really high HP pool compared to most other casters, is because you share it with your Eidolon. Functionally, in many ways, as we'll talk about, you'll see that you and the Eidolon are very much a single character split into two, with each of those two having different strengths and weaknesses. A great example of this is if you and the Eidolon are both the subject of an area of effect spell, and you would both separately roll saving throws, but you would use the worst of the two results. That way you're not, which is bad, but it means that you're not applying, if you succeed and take half and it fails and takes full, you're not taking 1.5 times the damage. You're just taking the worst because you share an HP pool, and it would be you would die very quickly if that was not the case. And don't worry, there are ways to mitigate that, with feats and things like that, so you're not always taking the worst of every save. But generally speaking, that's how it works. Anything that's affecting one of you is going to at least somewhat affect the other. This means that some things that are applying debuffs and stuff like that, you will both technically be affected because you're using, the same actions and things like that. For example, things like stunned or slowed. But if you're both slowed 1, you're not slowed 2. You just take the higher of the two results that both you and your Eidolon are suffering, if it's the same effect. Because you share an action economy, all of your actions can be used however you want between yourself or your Eidolon. Because of that, they give you a few tools in order to mitigate that and help you feel more like you're acting independently. And one of those is Act Together, which is a 1 to 3 action activity that you use. And you are buying another activity with the number of actions that you spend on it. So if you want to cast a spell, for example, on your summoner, you would spend 2 actions with Act Together, but you automatically grant a single action to your Eidolon. So you're using 2 actions, they get an action, and that leaves you with 1 action left for the round. The reverse is also true. If your Eidolon has something like a breath weapon, and that's a 2 action activity as well, you can spend 2 actions for Act Together, grant it that 2 action breath weapon, and give yourself 1 bonus action, leaving you another action to use however you see fit on your round. It sounds a little bit complicated. In play, you'll quickly pick up on it, where essentially you're just using Act Together to buy the number of actions from Act Together to buy any other action that's available to you or your Eidolon, and granting a bonus action. Another benefit of this is if you are in exploration mode, you and your Eidolon can be performing different exploration activities at the same time. To go along with this, you and your Eidolon can actually share senses. It's a single action activity, and it allows you to sort of remote view through your Eidolon. Because of your connection, you can see through your Eidolon's eyes or otherwise experience whatever senses the Eidolon may have, just as they would from their position. But while doing this, you lose all of the sensory perceptions on your summoner. Once you have chosen your Eidolon and its preset sort of stat arrangement, you also get to choose an Eidolon feat. These are called evolution feats, and they typically will add abilities, or usually offensive abilities or modifications to abilities that it already has, allowing it to further embody the image you have for your Eidolon, gaining movement speeds and things like that based on the type of creature or the type of form that you want it to be taking. In addition to this free evolution feat you get at level 1, you will be able to choose more as you level up your summoner. For items, your Eidolon acts a little different than other companions in that it can only equip items that specifically have the Eidolon trait, not companion trait and stuff like that. But bracers of protection or potency and resilient runes you have on your armor will function and apply to the Eidolon, as well as any fundamental runes that you have with a chosen weapon or on hand wraps of mighty blows. You can choose a weapon or use your hand wraps, and your Eidolon will receive any fundamental runes from that. As usual, when applying property runes and stuff like that from hand wraps or a weapon, if your Eidolon does not benefit from it, for example, if it's a rune that only affects bludgeoning damage and your Eidolon has no bludgeoning attack, it doesn't get to benefit from that rune on its attacks. Now for spellcasting, the summoner, like the magus we covered previously, is not quite a full spellcaster. It won't get 10th level spell slots, and it doesn't get to legendary proficiency. And it also receives fewer spell slots per day, and cannot access its lower level spell slots as it raises. It's called bounded casting, and there's a very nice convenient chart here that will explain it much better than I can with just text. Just check it out. We'll put that up and you can see how your spellcasting will progress, how you will lose access to lower level spell slots and gain access to higher level spell slots. Along with these limited slots, you have a limited number of spells in your repertoire. Unlike a magus, you are not a prepared spellcaster, you are a spontaneous spellcaster. What this means is that you're going to have very few options in terms of spells known that are at the ready to use with your few spell slots. This means that more than any other class, the summoner has to be very careful with which spells it adds and keeps in its repertoire. You start with 5 cantrips and 1 first level spell known, and you gain new spell slots, or as you gain new spell slots, you gain new spells added to your repertoire. But again, you lose the access to them as you gain in level because you're a spontaneous caster. You can only ever have 5 actual spell slots or spells known in your repertoire. But you can, of course, choose a heightened level just as any other spontaneous caster could to fill it. So you don't so if you have 5th level slots, you don't necessarily have to have 5th level spells known. You can have 3rd level spells heightened as your 2 5th level spells in your repertoire. One benefit, though, is that all of your spells are considered signature spells. So if you have a slot and the spell can go there whenever you cast, you can choose to burn it at whatever spell level you still have slots for. Thankfully, you do get focus spells as a summoner. You get link spells and link cantrips. Link spells use a focus point, link cantrips do not. You begin play with the Evolution Surge link spell, which can apply a few different unique things to your Eidolon, such as giving it new movement speeds and things like that. As you increase in level, you increase the number of things that you can choose to add with that Evolution Surge. And your first focus cantrip is Boost Eidolon, which will boost your Eidolon's damage from its unarmed attacks. All right, and that's all at level 1. As you level up, you get ability boosts, in addition to your own ability score improvements at the usual levels, starting at 5th, then 10th, then 15, then 20. Your Eidolon also gets these ability boosts that follow the same rules as your characters do. Anything over 18, they have to, increase it 1 at a time. But otherwise they can put it anywhere that they want. So you really have a lot of room to customize the ability scores of your Eidolon so that, while your caster summoner will continue to feel like a caster in its ability score choices, your Eidolon is not limited to that and will continue to grow as a martial or spellcaster depending on which type of Eidolon you've chosen. At 7th level, your Eidolon gains a new ability determined by the type of Eidolon that you chose. Sometimes these are passive abilities or auras, new attacks, actions, spells, things like that. It can really be a pretty wide variety, including just adjustments to existing abilities. At 17th level, you get Eidolon Transcendence. This is a new ability as well for your Eidolon. Very powerful sort of effects, determined again by the type of Eidolon that you chose. In addition, at 17th level, as part of Eidolon Transcendence, you get to apply another ability boost. This is sort of like the apex item that you would be getting about this level on your summoner. So again, you get this boost to keep your Eidolon as close as possible to a martial, so that it can fill its role for you. Or, again, caster, as the case may be, depending on your choice. That way it is staying on par ability score-wise, for the most part, a little behind, but mostly on par with other characters in the party. Your final level up ability is Instant Manifestation. At level 19, you can summon your Eidolon as a single action instead of a 3 action. This is really nice and can, especially depending on which feats you've chosen, can really open up your playstyle with your summoner and your Eidolon in terms of where they can be and what they can be doing at any given time. It's especially good if you are going down and getting hurt, and for whatever reason something is causing your Eidolon to unmanifest. It allows you to get back in the fight if you go down and have to get revived by healing, for example, much quicker than having to spend your whole turn pulling that Eidolon back out. So that's the stats and progression. Let's talk feats and builds. Feats for Summoner, as you might expect, provide a lot of upgrades to your Eidolon, including modifying their movement options and their attacks, like adding bleed or elemental damage or valuable weapon traits so that you can really enhance and customize its fighting style. You can also pick up new link spells and a new link cantrip called Reinforce Eidolon, which allows you to boost your Eidolon's AC and add some damage resistance. And there's a feat to let your Eidolon return the favor by protecting you and giving you an AC boost. Link spells include giving your Eidolon fast healing, which heals you too since you share an HP pool, and a powerful energy attack emanation around itself. You can also pick up some more action economy hacks like tandem movement or tandem strike, which allows you and your Eidolon to move in unison or attack in unison, respectively. What's great about the tandem movement is it's an action economy hack, but tandem strike is much more of a multiple attack penalty hack in that you don't apply your multiple attack penalty until after you and your Eidolon have completed the attacks, or strikes more specifically. There are also some martial standards that you can pick up for your Eidolon, like Attack of Opportunity, or you can add new skills or senses to your Eidolon. You can also enlarge your Eidolon, first to large and then up to huge, and that gives it reach accordingly, which can make it a very big presence on the battlefield. Additionally, there's a special reaction you can take to allow you and your Eidolon to take the better of your two saving throws against the same effect, which is a nice survivability boost, obviously. There's also an ability to teleport your Eidolon to your side as a reaction, and a feat that will allow you to swap places with your Eidolon, which is a nasty surprise for any enemy who thought they had you or your Eidolon right where they wanted you. And you can also use this as just an escape. If your Eidolon is over here and you're right there, you can swap places and then dismiss your Eidolon and just keep on trucking. But not all of your feats are directly related to your Eidolon. You also get some to make a better summoner, including a way to split spell slots into one of your spell slots into 2 summon spells so that you can feel like the master summoner that you should be. Speaking of spells, you can mitigate your very few spell slots by taking a string of feats that give your Eidolon its own spell slots, and then also allow you to access those spell slots as if they were your own, as sort of a shared pool of spells. This will significantly boost your number of spell slots per day, but they aren't technically part of your repertoire or signature spells, but they will help you get some low-level utility options that you'll really start feeling like you're lacking as you gain in level. For your top-level options as a summoner, that includes splitting a 9th level spell slot into 2 10th level spell slots, that they have to be summon spells. This is a wonderful addition after the playtest pointed out that the class called Summoner did not have access to the strongest forms, the heightened forms, the most powerful versions of summons in the game, and that's definitely an oversight and one that they were sure to correct in the final version, so we appreciate that. Other options are the ability to become an exact replica of your Eidolon. So if you're out of spells or whatever for the day and you just need to lay the hurt, 2 fully upgraded Eidolons will definitely do that. You can also get the ability to be permanently hasted, and you can use your, in a way that allows you to use your Link cantrip once per round, so it doesn't affect your action economy to keep your Eidolon boosted. So, what do I think? Well, I think the Summoner is weird. Even for Pathfinder2e, the way that the Eidolon is an extension of your character instead of just a pet really makes the bond feel different from other pets and feel like you are magically linked to this creature in a way that even the familiar can't quite manage. Additionally, your Eidolon choice really does differentiate yourself from other summoners a lot more than you might think, and really can affect your entire playstyle and how you build your character based on the choice, which is obviously the goal. And it allows for a class that, might not look like it necessarily has subclasses to really have that subclass feel and variation within the class. And there's good and bad to that, of course. You might really like the abilities of one Eidolon, but the magical tradition or flavor of the other. But oftentimes that's an easy homebrew that you and your GM could likely work out. And the good is that when you fully buy into your Eidolon and your class mechanics, your flavor and abilities will be very distinct from your party. And between you and your Eidolon being able to be in 2 places at once with very different toolkits in each position, the number of ways that you can help a party when things start to go bad is very high. You really are like zone coverage, sort of, for football terms or whatever, able to really lock down an area with different options, even with just your one character. Your Eidolon's capabilities, whether it be a martial or spellcaster-focused Eidolon, are definitely going to be below par in terms of a full-on character, but the combination with you is going to allow them to really compete alongside martials as long as you're using your actions to buff them and things like that. And again, it's not going to be like an animal companion that is the sort of thing where you might want to have it in and out of combat to prevent it taking too much damage, especially with the way that you can sit in the back line and heal yourself and affect its HP pool, it allows this Eidolon to sit in the pocket in melee with a level of confidence that other companions just cannot match. Because again, things that affect you, especially healing, are going to affect them as well, and allow them to just stay up without much interference or any allies having to get too close. So they can really hold their own in a bad situation. I think the biggest thing to keep in mind with the Summoner is that it does exactly what it says that it does on the tin. It's a caster class that relies heavily on its pet more than anything else, to the point that the pet is the primary feature of the class, as you would expect, something that's named after having the pet. So if you're looking for a caster that is going to feel like a caster, constantly slinging spells out with all these different and diverse effects, the Summoner may not be for you, as it's really not going to be able to fulfill that role without heavy multi-classing or picking up spellcasting dedications or investing fully into the spellcasting options that exist within the class. What they do give you is something wholly unique that lends itself to character concepts that others just can't match. I mean, you can play it where instead of treating the Summoner as the main character and the Eidolon as its pet, you could treat it completely the opposite. You could treat your Eidolon as the main creature with the Summoner itself as, an assistant, something that keeps it going in combat, patches it up after combat, and, they work together with a very different sort of hierarchy than a traditional character with its pet would. So that's the Summoner. Do you have any in your party or in your games? Are you playing one? Let us know down in the comments what you think of it. And let us know what you want to see as the next Eidolon choices that become available. Aberrant is an option that we were really hoping to see in Dark Archive, but it's not there. So I'm sure it'll come eventually. But I, for one, since Summoner was originally a primal spellcaster, a druid spellless sort of caster back in 1st edition, I really would like to see more primal options open up to it, just to play into that legacy of it. And I think things like Elemental would be a great candidate, and hopefully we'll see a big primal book coming out soon from Paizo. It seems like it's at least coming up soon in the docket in terms of what we've seen so far and what we haven't had yet. So hopefully that comes. At any rate, thanks for watching. Thanks for hanging out. We really appreciate it, and we'll see you next time. Welcome to the Collective.